Travelers rewards, frequent flyer programs. This is how airlines solve for retention. You set up an account on their website with a dashboard. They send you emails about loyalty programs. But the thing is, do these emails even do their job? If they stop sending you the email, would you just tune the airline out completely from your lives? It means they're not doing their job, right? So in this video, I want to talk about how to make sure travelers don't tune your loyalty emails out. This is comms strategy, and interestingly enough, it's been inspired by a contemporary philosopher. We are Dropkick Copy, Olympic level direct response marketers, World Federation champions. Our oversight translates well to all levels of the funnel, but it's the bottom of the funnel where retention exists that interests us the most. There's a link in the description box below. You can watch my partner interview some of our past clients, but first watch the rest of this video. So there's a school of contemporary philosophy called Italian theory, and what marks them out is that they took words, Roman words, Latin words, stuff about power, law and life, and got into the etymology of it to find out what it means. One philosopher, his name is Roberto Esposito, he broke down the word community and he explored it. And one thing he proposes is that the opposite of community is immunity, not solitude. And the way he arrived at is by actually understanding what the word com and munus, im and munus means. I'll explain. So in both those words is this word called munus, M-U-N-U-S, community, communus, immunity, immunus. So munus is basically an obligation, a gift, sometimes a burden. Sometimes you could say it's a responsibility that comes with a role, with a seat that you take. Communus, community, is when people share burdens together, people share gifts with each other, share obligations with each other. Communus, community. We are in community when we're sharing these types of things together. Immunity is when you're exempt from sharing these burdens. You're immunus. So what he kind of proposed and what he says is that you cannot be in a state of community with people when you're trying to be immune from them. And that's a key takeaway for us as marketers. So bringing back to the airlines care about community because they care about loyalty. And if you want to get loyalty, the best type of loyalty happens in community, right? So this type of thing is a strategy for your comms. If you're not engaging in community, if you're not sharing burdens with people, it's going to become evident in your comms. They're not going to see you as anything other than a vendor or even an arm of the state. Think about it. So what happens is, and this is what's evident from the philosophy and what he's talked about. People, they go to the marketplace, they go to work, they engage in whatever they have to do over there. It's very transactional. They leave that place and go back to the commons. The commons is where they engage in leisure. The commons is where communus is happening. People are sharing obligations, sharing duties, being in debt to each other. If you're serious about being in community, that means you, as an airline and whatnot, you have to leave your marketplace mode of thinking, your statesmanship or whatever, magisterial thinking, ministerial thinking. You have to leave all that and go to where the people are at, in the commons, out in the open, out in the fields. Engage in leisure with them in order to be received as a community member. This is if you're serious about doing community. Practically speaking, that means your comms strategy has to be like that. You have to have that in your mindset when you're creating your comms. People who are loyal spend 2 to 3 times more. So it's in your best interest to create this impression, to create the impression that you're in community with people in order to get their loyalty, in order to get that additional 2 to 3 times more spent. If you think you're going to get this community thing happening, this loyalty thing happening just by the points and the perks and the rewards, it's a mistake. It's just not true. What studies show is that, and this is across the board, not just in airlines, people are in more loyalty programs and reward programs than they're actually engaged with. They sign up to a ton of things. So if they sign up to 10, they're only active in 3. And they're especially not going to be loyal now when they found out that airlines are willing to shift the goalposts, change terms and devalue the points. There's been articles about this. People are ticked off. Frequent flyers are ticked off. It's getting more expensive to get the cool rewards and the cool experiences. It's becoming out of reach. Earning the points is a bit harder. Or Earning the points is less about how much distance you've flown with an airline, more about what other ways that you spend with an airline or where you're spending it in other retail stores and stuff. You accumulate points that way. They're changing terms, they're changing things around. They're changing the meaning of of loyalty to an airline itself. So if they're going to break that, and that's the situation we're in now, then airlines are definitely going to need a new angle of approach if they're serious about creating this thing called loyalty and being in community with people. Something needs to change, something needs to be fixed, or permanently reputation is lost, reputation is damaged. The airline is basically in a state of immunity, immunitas. They're trying to walk back their obligations. They're trying to shield themselves from the promises that they've actually made. They're also shielding themselves or trying to kind of fix or make themselves resilient against these market forces. Ever since the pandemic, the airline industry has been wrecked. They run on tight margins. It's these loyalty programs that allow them to actually make decent money. So they need to have this thing in place, but they need to be immune from the consequences of having to honor whatever they promised in this program. It's like a catch-22. The travelers, the frequent flyers, the members, they're caught in the crossfire of this thing, and they're going to be disappointed. They're going to lose, the desire to earn points. They're going to be disappointed in the brand, and they're not going to have faith in what loyalty programs even mean, rewards programs even mean with any of these airlines. I'm putting this video, this is a short video. It's part 1 of 2 because I want to lay the groundwork of how I'm thinking about this. Since the perception of what loyalty programs are worth has been wrecked, airlines need loyalty programs to exist and people to be engaged with them. Something needs to be changed. There needs to be a solution. What that solution is, I believe, is at the comms level at least, is a new way of thinking about your role in people's lives. This is broadly speaking, not just in airlines. It's like how you show up in people's lives at the retention level, post-purchase. Post-purchase, people are walking away from the marketplace and going back to their lives where they engage with leisure and productive work. If you show up in there trying to be a vendor in the midst of all that, you're just going to be perceived as annoying. So you don't want to do that. You want to know how to show up. When marketers talk about this thing, you'll usually, just business owners, they'll usually say, oh, you just got to show up and provide value. It's like, what does that mean? What does that mean week on week? You're emailing people once a week for, 4 times a month. You have to show up with value. Not necessarily. You just have to show up demonstrating you understand what their obligations are, what their burdens are, what their duties are, giving gifts to them, creating this reciprocity in them so that when it comes time for you to be a vendor in front of them, they're willing to hear you out and willing to not dismiss you. But to get to that point, that's a certain type of relationship, that's a certain type of loyalty that you can only get, or relationship you can get only when you're within community with people. If you're an outsider entering community, like most brands and companies are, you're going to just be treated as any other vendor, worth being rejected. I don't need what you're selling right now. I already bought from you once. I'm trying to be in the commons. I'm trying to engage in leisure. You see what I mean? So I'm setting the groundwork now on this. Part 2, I'm going to get a bit more specific of what kind of solution I'd implement for these airlines who want to fix their reputation. So stay tuned for that video. I'm going to upload both of them at once so you can watch these together. Okay, I hope this helps. Look into Roberto Esposito's very fascinating stuff. I think it's worth reading his books. I'm trying to get his books because as marketers, we need to reframe how we think. 2026, a lot of these ideas are old. A lot of the ideas about retention and stuff are outdated. Going into the future, I think there's a shift in the people's mindsets, what they expect out of life and such. They're no longer receptive to just points, tiers, rewards and stuff. You can't buy them. You have to show you're sincere. People talk about authenticity and stuff. What's more authentic than leaving your shop and going out and playing soccer with people and you're the business owner from such and such business? Isn't that authentic? This is what I'm saying. It's a mindset, a comms mindset. That type of feeling has to be present in your comms. Okay? Stay tuned for the next video. It's coming as well.